eye of newt and toe of dog, wool of bat and tongue of dog, adder's fork and blindworm's sting, lizard's leg and owlet's wing, for a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth, boil and bubble. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Hi guys, it's Sunday again here on Pagan Perspective. I'm your host Austin, and this week we're discussing magic. Okay, so I thought I'd have a bit of fun with you and a bit of fun with that. You know what? I'm gonna relight this again. Why not? Anyways, so this week we're discussing magic. Just to kind of point out the irony of the situation, I read that from my iPhone, and the book I was using as a prop book is one from a set of three, this one being Saint Tropez from the Victoria's Secret sexy books. Lots of fun stuff to look at. Let's start with what is magic. In my mind, magic is the ability or belief that you can bend reality, bend outcome, bend fate, maybe, to suit your will, to do what you would like it to do. Those of us who practice magic know all too well that that is not always the case. Generally, things tend to go how they're meant to go, and while you might influence them in a way that you or for an outcome that you might think you want or that you might think best suits you, the universe has other plans or knows better, and things generally go awry. Which is why when it comes to life and fate and outcomes and things like that, I like to take a very simple approach. If it ain't broke, don't mess with it. So there's the very common example of, okay, well, you need this job, so you cast a spell to get this job, but then, you may get the job in a way that you didn't want to get the job, or you may, oh, that's a bad example, but you know what I mean. You may want something so badly, you may work so hard to get it, you may use magic, and you really wind up screwing yourself in the end because it wasn't the right position for you, or you got it in a way that you would have rather not. Sorry about that. Jet wanted to come say hello. He's getting so big. Look at him. He's huge now. He's such a big boy. I know. But let's talk about maybe ways in which people practice magic or ways in which I might use magic. To me, the simplest explanation, many of you know I just graduated on Friday, last Friday, not this previous one, but the one before. And my parents were in town, and of course, we have pagan accoutrement around the house, quite a bit of it. And of course they ask about what's on our car, they ask about, everything, especially, my mother, she's very, well, if you've seen the videos on my channel, she's very brash. Unfortunately, she's from a very small place. She doesn't really understand big cities, big people, diversity, that kind of thing. So she's a very small-minded woman, and I love her, bless her heart, and this being Mother's Day, I'm not just saying that because it is Mother's Day, but she can be ignorant. She asked the question, we had a little bit of I want to say a fight, but a little misunderstanding because we were in her car, coming around to my car, and she saw, I have a sticker on my car that says Goddess Worshipper, and she snapped, I don't know how you could be pagan. So that got us into a huge conversation, and of course she played off I was just asking a question, I just wanted to know. And of course I snapped back with, well, that's not how you said it. So for better or for worse, we ended up having the talk, explaining to her generalizations about paganism, about Wicca, about what I believe, or how it differs from what they believe, why I don't believe as they believe anymore, and all of that. And of course the question came up, well, do you do spells? Do you hex people? Do you, this kind of thing? And of course, no, Mom, I don't hex people. Okay, so I just had to get rid of the candles annoying me a little bit. So the way I explained it to her, and the way I best like to describe it, because I feel that it's an easier way to approach the issue, especially with non-pagans, is to start with it's like a prayer, which it is. And can be. The point I was making at the beginning of this video was many of us like the pageantry. When I first started paganism, when I first got interested in paganism and Wicca and all of that. Of course, I was very interested in the burning of incense and the candles and the food and the the beauty and all of that. And it is about that, but it doesn't have to be that. It wasn't until much later, when I was much more mature, when I was reading more than just Silver Ravenwolf, that woman has her place. Those books are a great in for many people. However, as many of you will attest, they are extremely 101. I won't go as far as to say other things about them that I'm sure you're all thinking, but you know what I mean. So reading all of that, I eventually got to the point where I'm reading more about philosophy and about ethics of witchcraft, of paganism, of historical documents, all of these things, learning more about the history of the modern witchcraft movement. And I started to realize more and more that magic, or spell work, or whatever you call it, essentially this ability or belief that you can cause change, is really more of a mental thing. As I like to put it, as I've had it explained to me, sort of the best thing that I've come up with is that we use incense, and we use candles, and we use stones, and we use all these things not only as a way of, with stones and herbs and things, of adding to our abilities, energy-wise, or all of that, but we use them to focus intention. Human beings are physical creatures. We look around ourselves. We have eyes. We touch. We smell. Most of our senses deal with things outside of ourselves, outside of our own psyche. And we relate to things that way, which is, and when we talked about gods and goddesses, I feel the same way about that. We assign human characteristics because it's the easiest way that we can understand them, is to think of them as a person with thoughts, feelings, emotions, those kind of things as we do. It's very hard to relate to or think about something that is everything and nothing and undefined and all of that. So it's easier to work with things that we define. So it is easier for us to perhaps imagine our energy, or well, not imagine, to see our energy being focused, to focus our energy through being able to manifest these things through a wand, or through a stone, or through, whatever it may be, through a finger even. These physical aspects help to take us to a mental place where we can focus ourselves. Of course, with my mother, and I'm sure many of you do, well, that's strange. Why do you burn incense? Why do you wear special robes? Why do you want to do this or do that, or, whatever? They do similar things in church. If you think about it, any time that we put ourselves in a situation where we are using a maybe different part of our brain, education, church, any of that kind of thing, we go to a space. School has desks. It's much easier to do those kind of things in those kind of environments that are set up to put us in that mind space. Your spells can be as involved and as intricate as something out of Shakespeare. You could plan the whole night with fog machines and incense and candles and bonfires, and you can script out the whole thing, and it can be huge and elaborate. Or it can be as simple as closing your eyes and saying a prayer or a spell in your head on public transport. So the way I use magic in my craft, I don't really do too much of the big involved multi-step kind of thing. I'm more of a, sort of cast a little spell in your head kind of person. I do enjoy when I get the opportunity to spend time, thinking about writing, scripting, getting ingredients, getting stuff together, all of that. It's all fun and very well. But, at the end of the day, it's about the intention, not necessarily what you do to get there. I hope you guys have a great week. I am going to be in Richland, Washington all next week for Regional Dance America. So I will try. I'm taking my computer. If they have an internet connection, I will post, but I will know soon enough, and there will be a video this Sunday. So I will see you very soon. Bye.